Hello everybody, and today this is going to be a revision session, and it's going to be a revision for completing the square. I've got two examples for us. Example A, when it's relatively simple because I've got x squared plus bx plus c, here's my example here, or when I've got a is greater than 1, in this case I've got my example where a is 3, but it's more than 1, that's the important thing. Quick revision of how do I just write x squared plus bx plus c into completed square format? Well, the first thing that I do is I find b, and from that I work out b over 2, and I also work out b over 2 squared. Once I've done that, I can write this in the format of x plus b over 2 all squared minus b over 2 squared plus c. And as I said, this is a revision video, so therefore I'm not going to go into why we have to manipulate with this minus b over 2 squared. We're just going to go through examples to show you what to do. So for example A, relatively easy. I identify b, which is 6, so b over 2 is going to be 3, and as you've probably already anticipated, b over 2 squared is going to be 9. I can therefore write that immediately as x plus b over 2, which is 3, all squared minus b over 2 squared minus 9, but I mustn't forget this c at the end, plus 12. A little bit of a tidy up with that, not much, x plus 3 squared, and that's going to be plus 3. Now, proof of the pudding is in the eating. Let's expand this out and see if I get what I originally had. So expanding x plus 3 squared will be x squared plus, I'm not going to go into the massive detail of this, but 6x plus 9. Don't forget this plus 3 at the end, and you can see that yes, that's what that is. So this format works. But what do I do if I've got this 3 in front? What do I do with this? Well, in this particular instance, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to factorize this bit here. And here comes the important step for this, if you like, is this factorization, and what do I do with it? So I'm going to color code this for us, and I'm going to bring a 3 to the front of it, and then I'm going to have in a square bracket the factorization of these first two terms. So that's going to be x squared plus 4x in a square bracket, and then plus 2 at the end. Now this original form of 3x squared plus 12x plus 2 was not directly in a format that I could do complete the square. I've changed it, factorized out this bit, and this means that this bit only I can complete the square on. Now I'm stressing that because I've got to apply this to this procedure here. So here is the step that a lot of people get wrong. What's my b value? B is not 12. B is 4 here. So if I take this and start to do the work on it, b equals 4. B over 2 is 2, and b over 2 squared is 4. That's really important. Now I'm going to complete the square, but just on this middle bit. But I'm not going to lose the brackets, but you'll see how I develop this. So it's going to be 3, open the big square brackets up, and now I'm going to complete the square on the middle bit. So that's going to be x plus b over 2, which is going to, in our case, be 2. That's where I got that from, all squared, minus b over 2 squared, so minus 4. Now there is no c value here, so we're done on this bit, that's it, done. But I mustn't forget my plus 2 here. Now all I'm going to do is tidy up these brackets. We are essentially done. So I'm going to do 3 multiplied by x plus 2 squared. Now importantly, 3 times the minus 4, minus 12. That's that bracket expansion done, and now it's just the plus 2 at the end. So tidying that up, 3 x plus 2 squared minus 10. And if you go through the same process of expansion as we've got here, you'll see that that works. My main stress point, my main revision point for you is make sure that it's this that you do your expansion on for your b, and do the completing square work inside that square brackets and expand it out. So just carrying on from what we did there with completing square, what do I get from completing the square? Well, I do get the ability to take out the turning point, and the turning point is read directly from this completed square format. So what would that look like? Well, if I was to sort of generally write it out, it would be a x plus p plus q. That needs to be squared, obviously. And the turning point that I can just read out of this is minus p and q. So it's really, really important here that we remember whatever the sign is here, I change it. That's an important thing. So the turning point for my examples, so for A, the turning point is going to be minus 3 and 3. And for my example over here for B, my turning point is going to be minus 2 and minus 10. Now, I guess what you could do therefore is you could sketch this. That would be sort of my bonus point on this. So if I were to sketch out this, in fact, let's just move that slightly. If I were to sketch this out, then I know that for this equation, it cuts the y-axis at plus 12. There. I know that it's a positive quadratic, so it's going to look like that, like a U shape, and the turning point is at minus 3 and 3. Bearing in mind, it's just a sketch, bear that in mind. So this particular curve goes through there like that and up there like that. That would be the sketch of that. Not particularly brilliant, but it is a sketch of what we've got. And for this one, it's going to be slightly different because we've got the turning point at minus 2 and minus 10. Let's make that minus 2 and that minus 10. So there's the turning point. It cuts at plus 2. So it cuts the y-axis at plus 2. So it's going to look at, and it's also positive. So it's going to look something like that. Not the greatest artistry in the world, but that's what you can get from it. So the next thing I want to be able to do is solve it. So in this particular part, I've turned x squared plus 4x minus 12. I've completed the square on it and it's in this format. So all I do now is to solve it, I'm going to set this to 0. So x plus 2 squared minus 16 equals 0. And I'm just going to go through the process of rearranging now. So the first thing is I'm going to add 16 to both sides, and if I do that I get x plus 2 squared equals 16. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square root both sides, and if I do that I get x plus 2 equals the square root of 16, which is plus or minus 4. Remember, it's got the two answers to it. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. I'm now left with x equals minus 2 plus or minus 4. So in other words, I've got the solution x equals minus 2 plus 4, which is plus 2, or I've got the solution x equals minus 2 minus 4, which is minus 6. Now I could therefore add to the finesse of my sketching and see what this looks like. Well, if I do that, this was a positive quadratic, so it's going to be this shape. It's going to cut through minus 12, and I also know from this format that the turning point is going to be at minus 2 and minus 16. So let's get some of that detail on. First thing, let's get the turning point. -2, -16. So I'm going to judge it to be there. -2, -16. It cuts through at -12, so it's going to cut there at -12. And I know it's positive, so it is going to look like that. But I also know that it goes through +2 here, and it goes through here at -6, and that's the full sketch of it.